Well, Donald Trump was ready to strike Iran. The targets were allegedly locked. The message had already been sent out on his Truth Social. But just hours later, everything changed. Trump dropped out another Truth Social post where he said that the planned strikes have been called off. So what happened between those two Truth Social posts? Well, Gulf nations might be the answer. According to Trump, the request to pause military action came from the leaders of Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Now, these countries were all close American partners, appear to have delivered a clear message to Washington. Another round of strikes could push the region into a further full-scale disaster.
I was an hour away. We were all set to go. You're talking about yesterday.
Yes.
We were going to be striking it would have been happening right now. Yeah, it was all done. Like the boats, the ships are all loaded. They're loaded to the brim. And we were all set to start.
Mr. President,
they said that they feel they've had for the first time in almost 47 years. You know, Iran's been the bully of the Middle East for 40 years.
Right, moving on to other updates now. Lahore may soon be reconnecting with its deep-rooted historic past. In a major cultural revival push in Pakistan, the Punjab government, led by Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz Sharif, has approved a new plan to restore the original names of historic roads, markets, neighborhoods, and landmarks across Lahore. According to government officials, the initiative aims to bring Lahore's rich civilizational history back into public memory and strengthen the city's cultural identity. Pakistan's Punjab province government says that Lahore carries the legacy of Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, and British eras and has remained a center of multiple civilizations for centuries. But decades of political changes after the partition in 1947 and later administrative decisions reportedly gradually pushed many historic names into the background. Officials now want to revive those identities and showcase Lahore more strongly as a cultural and tourism hub. Under this proposal, several locations may regain their earlier names. The proposed changes reportedly include Islampura once again becoming Krishan Nagar. Sant Nagar may replace Sunnat Nagar. Dharampura could retain, in fact, its older name of Mustafabad, while Ram Gali may replace Rahman Gali. Authorities also are considering restoring names such as Lakshmi Chowk, Lawrence Road, Queens Road, and Outfall Road. The move comes decades after several landmarks across Lahore were renamed, including Lahore Stadium, renamed to Gaddafi Stadium, Mall Road becoming Shahra-e-Qaid-e-Azam, and Minto Park turning into Iqbal Park. But officials say many original names continued to survive in public memory. Pakistani historians and archaeologists, meanwhile, have reportedly supported this initiative, stating that historical names represent cultural heritage and they should remain preserved beyond politics or religion. Pakistan's Punjab government says the project is not simply about renaming roads or streets. It's about restoring Lahore's historical character for future generations. All right, we're cutting across to Beijing at the moment, where Russian President Vladimir Putin is landing. In fact, he has landed, as you can see, a warm welcome being given to the Russian president, the Chinese premier there, Li Qiang, welcoming Vladimir Putin. Remember, this is an extremely crucial visit for the two countries and the geopolitical situation that persists at the moment. Vladimir Putin smiling and waving at all of those people who have come to the airport, converged there to welcome him. Later, of course, during his visit, he will be meeting the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Russia and China, remember, have described their partnership as a friendship with no limits. And time and again, they have displayed that despite their differences, they have made sure that they align with each other, that they have a strong partnership, which will now be strengthened with Vladimir Putin visiting Beijing. Remember, this is the Russian president's first foreign tour this year. This is his 25th visit to China in the past few years. There you can see, younger teenagers have converged at the airport to welcome, holding Chinese and Russian flags, really denoting the kind of friendship that the two countries share. But as far as the agenda of this meeting is concerned, remember, extremely important to note that this visit comes less than a week after Donald Trump's visit to China. It also comes amid deep geopolitical uncertainties and the volatility that the entire world is grappling with due to the Iran war. And therefore, oil remains a big agenda on this visit. A gas pipeline will be, talked about. It is expected to be talked about. And of course, trade remains the #1 agenda as far as China and Russia is concerned. So Vladimir Putin there at the Beijing airport being welcomed by Chinese officials. And later, of course, he's expected to meet with Xi Jinping. They call it a friendship with no limits, and Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping have displayed it many a times in the past. The Russian president is in Beijing. His first foreign tour this year, it coincides with the 25th anniversary of the Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation between Russia and China. It also comes, remember, less than a week after American President Donald Trump was in China, where he was accorded an extravagant banquet, but wasn't handed out much of a substantial deal. In contrast, President Putin's visit feels more low-key, with little information having been released in advance. As per reports during Trump's visit, Xi Jinping had jokingly name-dropped Putin to Trump when the two leaders were walking through Zhongnanhai, telling him how the Russian president had visited the place before him. So while the Americans hoped that they can slightly wear off Moscow's influence on Beijing, clearly that is a tough task. Remember, despite differences on some issues, Russia and China have ensured that trade flows and diplomacy is strengthened. In the Hormuz crisis, China's own risk, which it had taken on Russian energy, now seems to be showing results. China's domestic energy security in an increasingly volatile world has been secured, at least for the time being, thanks to Russia. In line with this, the two leaders will talk in detail about the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, for which Russian gas giant Gazprom and the China National Petroleum Corporation reportedly signed a preliminary deal after years of stalled negotiations. Now, this pipeline is expected to be a game changer, delivering 50 billion cubic meters of Russian gas to China via Mongolia. But it's not just the Iran war. Putin and Xi are aware that the Chinese silence against Russian aggression on Ukraine can be used in its own invasion of Taiwan if and when it decides to. Putin had last visited China in September 2025 for the annual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. At the time, Xi Jinping had called Putin an old friend, while the Russian leader addressed Xi as his dear friend. Then in April this year, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited Beijing. He and President Xi described the relationship as precious in the current international context. So where does this leave America, a country which, under Donald Trump, is getting increasingly isolated from allies and has been embroiled in multiple wars? Well, remember, by hosting foreign leaders, China is seeking to strengthen its own image as a pillar of global stability, as opposed to America, which is struggling to end the war in Ukraine and contain a separate war with Iran that has disrupted global energy flows across the world and increased inflation at home for Americans. America, many believe, has been seeking support from Russia and China through backchannel talks to convince Iran to concede to Donald Trump's demands, essentially provide an off-ramp to Trump to get out of this war. On the other hand, you've got Iran that sees support from Putin and Xi as very critical to hold off American forces. And the United States is aware that Russia has been offering intelligence and satellite support to Iran. In a March interview with the Fox News channel, Donald Trump said, and I quote him, "A bit. Moscow might be helping them a bit." Now, while Washington and Moscow battle it out, at the center of it is Beijing. The Russia-China partnership highlights the growing pressure on United States in the uncertainty that it has created and it finds itself in. Observers say that the Xi-Putin summit will send a signal to the world that the China-Russia strategic partnership remains steadfast, and any attempt by the United States to create a rift between them is destined to fail.